You're listening to the Travis Makes Money podcast presented by GoHighLevel.com. For a free 30-day trial of the best all-in-one digital marketing software tool on the planet, just go to GoHighLevel.com/Travis. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Travis Makes Money podcast, where it's our mission to help you make more money. Today on the show, we're talking about chlorella and spirulina with my new friend, Catharine Arnston, the founder of ENERGYbits.com. Catharine, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm great. Thank you, Travis. How are you?
I'm getting there. Getting there. It's the day's almost done. Just trying to get some energy up so we can have a great time here. And then I got to try to hit the gym after this.
Yeah.
And then
good thing I brought you some spirulina.
Exactly. That's why we're doing this.
You're wearing my flagship color, green. Green is good.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come out here. I know you're in Vegas to do some podcasts and things like that. So we'll make sure we have a good time. First question for you before we dive in. I love getting the answer to this question at the outset of these episodes. Tell me, Catharine, how you made your first dollar ever. Take us back in time.
My first dollar ever. Well, it was probably babysitting.
Okay. As a teenager?
But, I think it was 10 or 12. So you couldn't work in a store or do anything like that. So it's just on the street.
I hear there's some laws about that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. This is in Canada, so I don't know if we had different laws or not. But no, I've been working since I was probably 14.
Okay.
I think my first retail, I run the popcorn machine at a chain store called Zeller's in Canada. I don't even think it still exists anymore.
Okay. And were your parents entrepreneurial, or were they working jobs, or were they doing?
No, not really. Well, I had an uncle who was entrepreneurial, but no, I've just always been a very proactive individual. I love solving problems, and I just love learning. And when other kids were trying to sneak into movie theaters, I would be sneaking into conferences to learn stuff. So
I see.
I just like making things better, and then I like to know how things work.
What did your parents do then?
What did my parents do? My mother was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
And my father was a sales rep for a variety of different companies.
Okay,
so,
gotcha. And siblings?
I have two sisters. One is an architect, and then an artist, and the other was in fashion design.
Okay.
So,
kind of all over the place.
I did an MBA and followed the corporate world, but I never fit into corporate. I was too outspoken,
rambunctious,
and wanted to kept being told to stay in my lane, and that was not good for me or my brain. So,
how long did you last in corporate?
Well, I was in and out of corporate for almost 25 years, but I have started 3 companies. And each time I got a little further along. And then this one, I wasn't even planning to start this one. I just wanted to help my sister recover from breast cancer, which she did. And we can talk about that story. But the funny thing was, when I did this MBA, we were we were expected to be a CEO of a company within like 10 years. And that was the path I was on, and it wasn't happening. And then I finally gave it up, and I just wanted to help my sister get better. Yeah. And ironically, by throwing away the path that society or the business world seemed to indicate I was supposed to be following, I fell into my dream world, my dream life, a successful company, changing people's lives and building a really, really crushing it as a company right now. It took a long time to get to where we are.
Of course.
We are definitely crushing it now.
I'm curious what your advice would be to young people that are listening to the podcast that are maybe in a similar position, trying to figure out, like, I kind of like this business thing, but should I be going to school? Should I be pursuing an MBA? Should I go the corporate path? Should I just start a business? Should I work for a startup culture? Like, what should I be doing?
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for them or thoughts for them?
Well, absolutely. First of all, the thing that kept me going, was my passion for what I'm doing now. So that I think is the most important thing. But you also have to have a real reality check. I mean, I'm saying we're crushing it now, but I've been at this for 15 years. Yeah. So you have to be very patient. And so patient and persistent and passionate, those are the 3 Ps that I think are really critical. Start small, test, try something small, don't have an ego involved, sell just to your friends like I did to get started, and take their feedback. But also, you have to remember, everyone's going to have an opinion. Everybody. Yep. And if I started listening to everyone who was telling me that I was crazy, it would never work, I wouldn't have a company now. So I think, you have to have passion and listen to the voice inside you. Does this bring you joy? Does this feel like your truth?
Yeah.
And if it does, do it small. I tell people, when you're an entrepreneur, you have two choices. You can either decide you're going to sell stuff or you're going to build a brand. And I wanted to build a brand, which is much more difficult, and it takes a much longer time. And building a brand, I tell people, is like falling in love, because it doesn't happen overnight. You have to build trust. You have to keep showing up and showing up and showing up, which is different than selling stuff, which is very transactional. It's sort of like speed dating. So you have to decide as an entrepreneur, do you just want to sell stuff, or do you want to build a brand? And I always wanted to build a national, global brand. So my choices were always based on that, and so I paced myself. But anyone, whether you want to be selling a really cool pizza in your neighborhood or building a global brand, just be sure it's something you're passionate about, that speaks to you and your truth, and just give it time.
Yeah, because there's life stages will demand different answers to that question, right? Like
Absolutely.
If you're, a young person and you're 20 and you have no responsibilities and you have nothing holding you back, then you can kind of bum it off somebody else's couch for a little bit, keep your expenses crazy low, and maybe attack that brand idea from the beginning. But then if you're a 44-year-old married person with 3 kids and a mortgage to pay, and you got student loan debt, and you got all these different factors that are, playing into that, then maybe you start off just by selling stuff.
Yeah.
Because you sell stuff, you can make money, and you can make money now. And then you can kind of store some cash and start building up a little bit of a war chest to then go tackle that kind of brand building phase, right?
It's very much your lifestyle, your age. And fortunately for me, I'm not married. I don't have children. I don't have pets. So I approached this like a 20-year-old would, because there wasn't a square inch in my condo. We spent the first 8 years, my office was in my condo.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you first started this was about 15 years ago, you said you started?
Yeah.
Were you still working the corporate job alongside of this?
No.
Okay,
no.
So tell me about that transition.
So I had been trying this corporate thing and it wasn't quite working. And then my sister got sick with cancer. And so I just decided to abandon everything and stay by her side to give her some advice, because her oncologist, which is a cancer specialist, not her yoga instructor or her dog walker, her oncologist, told her to change her diet to an alkaline diet because it would be important for her healing.
Interesting.
So it's pretty powerful information.
That's rare advice from an oncologist.
Yes, no kidding. And I think it's because she was a woman, and women are more interested in nutrition, and also it was in Canada. So not quite the stranglehold that the pharmaceutical industry has to possibly here in the United States. So, but they didn't tell her what an alkaline diet was or why it was good for her. So my younger sister called me, not that I knew anything about nutrition, because all I was doing was corporate international business, but I'm a good researcher and I'm very passionate. So I went online, and anyone could, and I found it was basically a plant-based diet. So I found foods for her. She did change her diet. She did go through chemo. She did completely heal from cancer.
Good for her.
Then in the process, I learned about the power of green nutrition. And people weren't talking about plant-based nutrition this was 17 years ago when she was sick, actually. So I thought, somebody should tell the world about this. I think I will. Now, remember, I had no money, no background, no education. Didn't make any sense, but the voice in me said, you can do something. So I got a course in health coaching, and I built my own curriculum, and I taught plant-based nutrition, which led me to what I do now. Because as I was teaching people the importance of eating vegetables, I kept getting pushback. They were saying, well, they're too heavy to carry home from the grocery store. They give me gas. They go bad. My kids won't eat them. My husband won't eat them. 1,000 reasons why people weren't eating vegetables. So I decided, being the problem solver that I am, I need to find something that will give people the nutrition of vegetables without any of the work, the gas, the blah, 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 blah. So I just went and looked at everything that I found for my sister and did a deeper dive. And when I got to algae, which is what we sell, the company's ENERGYbits, and we sell spirulina and chlorella algae, that's when the miracle happened. Because first of all, it's the most concentrated food in the world. world. NASA says it has 1,000 times more nutrition than any other food in the world. The United Nations has endorsed it for 50 years as the answer to world hunger because it's 3 times the amount of protein as steak. There's 100,000 studies documenting the health benefits of it. It's been used in Asia for 60 years where they take it every single day, and it's a food crop. Oh, and the best thing is it comes in these tiny little tablets about the size of a baby aspirin. Yeah. And each tablet has same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables. So now, while I'm talking to you, I just had a plate of vegetables. Now, everyone can get the nutrition that they need, the green plant nutrition, 40 vitamins and minerals, highest chlorophyll, highest protein in seconds. There is no excuse to not be nourished any longer. You don't have to prep it. You don't have to care. It has 3-year expiry date. You can have it while you're entrepreneurs. Listen up. You guys we gals and guys, we need energy. This fuels your brain. This fuels your body. This pulls out toxins. It builds your immune system because there are no sick days when you're an entrepreneur. So that's how I got into algae. Started by helping my sister, found out that plant-based nutrition was important, found out that it was too hard for people to eat vegetables. And by the way, most of them are, sprayed with glyphosate and pesticides. And that's what led me to algae, which is the proven multi-billion-dollar industry in Asia. And nobody outside of Asia knew about the health benefits of it. So I decided I would tell them about it, and I would build a company that changed their lives and their trajectory with algae. So that's how I got here.
Okay, got it. So let's talk through initial stages. Okay, a lot of people can look at all the stuff that you have now and be like, okay, well, it makes sense that you're here because you have all of this background, you have all this foundation set up, but I have no idea what step 1 is. Like I have this idea I've been thinking about, and I know it solves a problem, and I know it's helpful for people, but how do we even go about getting a product built?
Yeah.
How do I get these? How do I start manufacturing the thing that I have? What was your kind of step 1 for product development?
Well, I looked at what was in the market, and you can do that if you have a product. You can, and if it's a consumer-based product, you can go on Amazon. You can just Google it, and you can see all of the competitors. So you should create a spreadsheet for yourself. Get the prices, the quantities of items in each package. Look at the packaging. What's on the package? What are the colors that they use? What's the pricing? What's the margin? Well, you may not know the margins, but you can do a ton of research online. It doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
So that's the first important thing. Find out what's out there. So I found out what's out there. And I found really low quality algae tablets. There was nobody doing any education. There was no branding going on. I went to shows and I met the competitors. And so this is the other thing. Go to a show in your market segment. Very often you can get a free badge. Walk the show. Go up to your competitors. You can, you can tell them who you are, or you choose not to. But gather information. Find out what you want to do that's different, that's better, that will it either has to be a better price or better value or both.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I did the research online, then I went to the shows, and I realized nobody was educating people about the value of what these products did, and nobody had high-quality products. They were all crappy things grown in India and China, and nobody was paying attention to the production process, which ours works so much better because I addressed all those issues. So first, find out what's out there. Where is there a gap in the marketplace? And and I didn't know I was doing this intentionally, but it turns out I created what's called a blue ocean strategy. Because here's the thing, you can be competitive in a market that's very cluttered and offer maybe a 5% improved price or a 5% improved margin, but it's going to be a bloody war out there in the market to try to get attention. You should try to find something that's completely different, unthought of. That's called a blue ocean strategy. I wasn't trying to do that, but it turns out that's what I did. I have been going to shows with my company for 15 years. We go to wellness shows, biohacking shows, keto shows, 15 years, right?
Yep.
We are still the only algae company at every single show.
Wow.
We're at one now here in Vegas, and we will be again the only. So other companies haven't figured this out.
Yeah, they're still competing for protein powder.
There's protein powder, smoothies, and they're selling through Trader Joe's. We don't sell through retail because we have a medical grade product. We only sell on our website and through doctors. So do your research, find out what's out there, see what you can do way better and in a completely different way, and then just do it in a very small way. So you're going to need to do a website. I spend money. I've always been, because I come from the interior design industry, design is very important. So package design, website design, creative content. I would spend your money on creative stuff. And on package design, for example, I had no idea how to do package design. So entrepreneurs, you got to teach yourself. You teach yourself everything. So I taught myself how to do package design. How did I do that? I went to Whole Foods. I got all the empty boxes from Kind bars, Lulu bar, Laura bars. I grabbed about 6. I just went to the trash and picked them up. They were free. You can always find stuff for free. I lined them up on my dining room table. I measured every single one of them, the length, the width, the height. I took pictures of what was on the front, the side, the back, and I got an average length, width, and height, and what should be on the front, back, and side. Then I went to PowerPoint, and I designed my own box. It wasn't pretty, but it was mine, and I did it. And then I printed the PowerPoint sheets, and I folded them up into mini boxes out of paper.
Nice.
So I could get a visual. And I still have all of those boxes, because if anyone ever doubts that I designed my own packaging, I have the proof to show them that I did it. And then I found a graphic designer who made what's called a die line, because you have to actually have these die lines. And then I found a printer to make the boxes. Like I said, the first set of boxes were ugly. They're the ones I had on Shark Tank, if anyone ever saw me on Shark Tank. And then I had an epiphany on how to improve them, and I redesigned them completely. And that's what we have now. And people love our packaging. But my message to entrepreneurs, because I love entrepreneurs, we're passionate, we're proactive, we solve problems, we're helping the world, we're creating wealth for ourselves and for our communities. You can do anything. You can find anything, but you have to put the effort into it. And you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. I didn't have a drop of package design experience, but I taught myself.
That's my next question. Was this all self-funded at the beginning, just kind of working on out of a war chest type of a thing?
Yep. So I didn't want venture capital because I knew it was going to take me a long time. I did get 6 friends and family who each wrote me a check for $10,000.
Okay.
So collectively, I had one gave me $20,000, but less than $100,000, and there was only at the very beginning. So that was 2010. I didn't accept a drop of money after that.
Oh wow!
Completely self-funded. So here's my other thing to entrepreneurs. Get your funding from your customers. And my first customers, who were they? I labeled my own, my algae tablets myself. I bought labels from Vistaprint. You can buy a sheet for $4 with 6 labels on it. I would label the front, the back. I would put the bags in my knapsack. I would go to my health club and sell them to my friends for cash. And then I started getting that they loved them. And then they would say, well, so-and-so would have really liked them. So I had to build a website then. So so-and-so, their friend, could buy them. And I would personally take them to the post office and mail them myself. I was at the post office every single day. I knew all the posties. I was there every single day. So, I mean, this is what you do. You just schlep it, you grind it out, and you do it because you know there's something really important that you're doing for yourself, for your family, and for the world. And it's not glamorous. I've lived in Boston for many years, and there's a college called Babson there, and for a couple of years they had all these huge banners in all the bus depots glamorizing entrepreneurship. Yeah. And the reality is there are moments. I mean, I won a national award from Entrepreneur Magazine. I got a check for $15,000. They flew me out to California to accept the check. It was one of those big fake checks that Publishers Clearinghouse thing. And it was the same award that Dennis, I'm blanking his name, the founder of Kind bars won. Oh, yeah. I'm blanking on this. Anyways, so that was a high note. Being on Shark Tank was a high note. But the reality is 99.99% of your days are the grind. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You should rename your show The Grind. The Grind, yeah. Tell me about your experience on Shark Tank. What
point in the journey did that come about? And what was the purpose? Like, were you trying to get funding, or were you trying to get more publicity?
No, I never once tried to get funding. I didn't want funding because I had funding for one of my previous companies, and it was a nightmare. And I was under so much pressure to meet quarterly results and sales, and I just thought, I'm never going to do that again. So I only went on Shark Tank for visibility. Yeah. I probably had 200 people tell me, as I would meet them at shows and I would meet them at my health club, and they say, you have a great product, you have great enthusiasm, you should be on Shark Tank. So, but I didn't want to be on Shark Tank because I didn't want their investor money.
Yeah.
But finally I thought, you know what, with 200 people telling me, maybe I should do it for other reasons, maybe just the visibility.
Sure.
So I knew nobody. I had no inside track. I just went to their website, filed the application, but I made it really attractive. And I put, because you have to almost give your life away. You have to sign all these contracts, and you have to send them samples, and you have to do videos and send all your financials and your business plan. And then I got accepted. Then that's when the real work started. Every month I would have more material I had to send them, more documents I had to sign my life away if I was successful. They would own me for 5 years after whatever. I had to do videos. I had coaching calls with the producers every single week. And then they don't tell you until the week of the recording if you have been picked. So they tell you, because they record twice a year, and they do like 7 recordings a day. It's just like back to back. So I found out on a Thursday that I was being recorded, and I was on a plane like on Friday.
Oh, really?
And so it's true. They don't know anything about you until the actual sharks until you walk out in front of them. Once you get accepted, you're like a celebrity. They had the hair and makeup trailer, and you had your name on the door, and it was kind of glamorous. So that was definitely glamorous,
fun experience,
a very fun experience. And they do. It's a TV show.
Of course.
We didn't actually get any sales results from that because people are watching it from an entrepreneur's perspective or an entertainment perspective. I do really well. We're probably going to get to this, what has really triggered my success or my company's success, and it's been podcasts, wellness, biohacking podcasts. These are people who are very serious about learning how to improve their health, their longevity. And so they're pre-selected and I go on these podcasts, and for an hour, I talk about the science. And some of them, so I've been on probably 375 podcasts. I'm getting close to 400
Good
podcasts. But again, entrepreneurs. I didn't have any science background when I started this company. And it's very science what algae does for you. So I had to teach myself the science. For 14 years, I went into a website called PubMed, which is full of scientific documents and papers. And I basically taught myself cell biology, metabolic health. So I had to teach myself the science. And after 14 years, I learned a lot of science. And I thought, this is crazy. How do I know so much stuff? Because we always assume you can only learn at school. Well, no. Learning comes from doing and applying yourself and being curious. Curious is the key here. So I decided, because a lot of places wouldn't let me on their podcast or let me speak because I didn't have a PhD or an MD. So I thought, okay, I'll get one. So I did.
Oh, really?
I wrote my exams last summer, and I got my PhD last September.
Wow, congrats.
So I am now Dr. Catharine Arnston.
Congrats. What was the PhD in?
In natural health.
Okay.
So Kingdom College of Natural Health is where I went. Not a well-known college, but it's been around for 60 years. But my point is that if you are determined to do what you want to do, whether it's you're building a laundry business or a financial business, you need to learn and teach yourself everything and lift the hood, ask questions. And there's so many resources out there that are available for free, and follow people, find a way to get to them, because the knowledge will separate you from everybody else, because most people will not go that distance. They will give up, or they will not ask that 100th question that turns the light bulb on, and you have your aha moment to take you into the stratosphere. The stratosphere won't happen overnight, but I'm convinced that success is just a waiting game. Stick with it. Stay with it. So you have to keep your costs low. For 8 years, I worked out of my condo. So I only hired interns. They didn't generate, a lot of additional value for me because they didn't know anything because they were fresh out of college. But the point is, I found a way to make it work because I was not going to give up because I knew there was potential here.
Yeah. So you've been at it for 15 years now. At what point would you look back on that journey and say, like, this was kind of the inflection point? Like, this is where things started really taking off for us. And what caused it?
Yeah. Well, it depends on what your business is, what will trigger that. Ironically for us, COVID was probably the best thing that happened to us.
Okay.
Because people suddenly started putting wellness and their health at the top of their shopping list as a priority for their budget and their life. And so that was 4 years ago. We have doubled. We were languishing. We were, inching along, getting better, but not dramatically so. And ever since COVID, we've doubled revenue every single year.
Wow.
And up until this year, we never did even any advertising. We didn't do any ads on Google, nothing on Facebook, nothing. It was just the podcast. Now, the podcast worked for me and our business because we are a wellness, longevity, biohacking company. We
kind
have
of an education first business.
Yes.
Yeah.
And science first. So you have to find out where the sweet spot is. What is it where's the pain point in your customer? Whether if it's a business, maybe they have they're trying to save money, but make sure you're making a big savings for them and making a huge step, because then you get into that blue ocean strategy. You don't want to be fighting with everybody else to get a 5% improvement in whatever it is you're offering.
Yeah.
So for us in the wellness space, that was the trigger. So it was just being at the right place at the right time, although we had prepared up until that point with all the science and the research and I recorded 200 videos, teaching videos on algae. So we'd done our homework.
Yeah.
So you want to be preparing for that moment. The other thing is you have to know when to pivot. So when we first started, because I had no money for advertising or to even hire people, and I was hiring all these interns. Well, they all were college kids, and a lot of college kids like to run. So my interns were taking our product, and they found that it helped them run faster, run better. So they were telling their friends, who many of them had blogs. So they would blog about our products for runners. Suddenly, out of nowhere, we became a sports nutrition product. We had Olympic teams using our product, triathletes, ultra runners, entire Olympic teams. It was just crazy. So
were they doing something different at all in terms of taking it, or just using it just like a regular person? Okay.
Because a lot of runners and triathletes, they use gels and bars and Gatorades that are loaded with sugar and carbs that really cause stomach distress when they're in the midst of their race.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. So, and there's no sugar or caffeine or chemicals. The algae, just the spirulina, gets absorbed instantly, and it gives you energy, focus without upsetting your stomach. This was a game changer for athletes. So for the first 7 years, we were a sports nutrition product. And it was only because my staff were using it and telling their friends about it. So everybody's a customer. You have to remember that, whether your team, your family, just get them to use whatever it is that you have to sell. And if it's working, they're your testimonials, and they will tell their friends. People love things that work really well.
Yeah, well, it seems like you were definitely involved in kind of that product-led growth where, before you could afford to spend money on marketing, you were the marketing.
Yeah.
Like you were going to all the shows, you were going to the conventions, you're going to the gym, you're being actively involved in the community.
Yeah.
It's not, marketing isn't just a matter of
buying ads.
Yeah, ROAS.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's also just getting out there and spending time with the customer and figuring out what their problems are and how can we help solve that problem? How can we help educate them that this is the solution to their problem?
Yeah.
And then you get enough profit in the bank, then you can start focusing on, all right, now let's go attack these, marketing campaigns with a little bit of spend here and start really pouring some fuel on the fire.
Yeah.
But sometimes people just aren't ready for the growth. They haven't stress tested it all. They don't know the product works that well. They haven't figured any of that piece out. And then they just go out and start spending a bunch of money, and then you can lose a lot of money really, really quickly.
Well, and the problem is a lot of entrepreneurs are young, and young people have been raised on TikTok, and ADHD is probably the constant that I hear from young people. And the reality is, growing a business takes time, and you may not want to talk to a customer because you want to be, spending the money on that ad campaign. But until you have the right offer and the right packaging and the right target audience, so we were targeting all these athletes, and they were loving it. But then I thought, well, we need to get this into retail. Well, so this is where I came to a pivot. We couldn't get retailers to stock the product because we were selling them in these little tiny individual pouches for $4 at the time. They're now $6.
I see.
And this is when Amazon was starting to really take off. And all of the sporting goods companies were feeling the pinch, and they were either only stocking products that were expensive, like $500 running shoes or $2,000 bicycles, or a big brand. I went to all the retail stores. I went to the running shows, the hiking shows, the cycling shows. We couldn't get a single retailer to buy our products. And then, fortunately, a chiropractor who was a friend of mine, he said, I run this wellness conference. Why don't you come to my wellness conference? I'll give you a booth for free and just see if you like it. So I went to the wellness conference. Everybody there knew about spirulina and chlorella. They knew about plant-based nutrition. They knew all about the science. It was an eye-opening experience. And we opened up, I think a dozen accounts on the spot.
Oh, wow.
And I said, goodbye sports retail, because I have found my market. So when you think you have a market, but it's not moving the needle, that's the universe, the market. Somebody's telling you either not now, not them, or something else is wrong with either your packaging, your messaging, or your product.
So it was a pivot of the market, not even a pivot of the product.
It was a pivot of the market, but you could have a pivot in any aspect of your product. So we pivoted into wellness, and that really took off for us. And we started going to spa shows. And here's another pivot. Here's a packaging pivot. So I had people from the Four Seasons, all these beautiful spas. Anyone's gone to a spa, they're very calm, and they're usually very light colored. They're white or they're beige. And my first package design, remember, I taught myself packaging, and I didn't know anything about it at the time. My package was black and it had my logo on it. It was ugly, but it was what it was. So these spas are saying, we love your product, we hate your packaging. So I designed new packaging. And it turned into what we have now. And spas and clinics love the packaging. It's very vibrant. Still, it jumps out if you're a white spa.
It does.
And it just jumps out at you anyways. So I had to do a pivot on the packaging. I guess my point is that if something's not working, don't get angry. Try to take the feedback and learn from it and see what you can change. Another example is I kept hiring all these interns because I kept thinking I can't afford real management skill. Well, they weren't because they were young and they were right out of college. They weren't bringing new skills to the company.
Right.
I had to teach them everything, but my knowledge was only going so far. Finally, I think about 4 years ago, I finally hired a real executive, and that was a game changer for me because they brought in skills that we needed, and they were an adult and responsible, and they advised me on things that I knew we needed to do.
They filled in knowledge gaps that you had.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of changing your spend and changing your mindset. I thought we couldn't afford that kind of quality. And quite honestly, I realize now we couldn't afford not to hire that. So I had to pivot on the kind of person I was recruiting for the company. So there's all these lessons that you learn as you go along. And the key one for me was when something's not going according to what you think you have planned, listen to the feedback. What can you do differently? How can you up-level? How can you reach for where you thought you couldn't be? And then find a way to get there.
Talk to me about the relationship side of this. Who you know versus what you know. Obviously, you spend a lot of time figuring out the what piece, and you research. I mean, you got a PhD in this thing just to shore that up. How important have relationships in your life been for the success of the company? Whether it's somebody like Dave Asprey to go on his show and talk about this, or it's a relationship with a supplier, or a distributor, or a marketer, or somebody that can help you find an executive. How has that been helpful for you?
Well, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and because we're so science-based, I actually have been a bit of a hermit for the last 15 years because I had to be sure I had the science right, I had the branding right, I had the packaging right, the team right, the social media, the advertising. And so when the people that we've met, like that have been influential, like Dave Asprey, is because we exhibit at his show, and so we just keep showing up, and so we build that rapport. But now I'm hiring much more senior executives to take on the management of the role, and the relationship piece is becoming more important because I am the face of the company, and so I am strategically choosing to be more visible at higher levels and hiring PR agencies to get me into larger events, speaking in larger to larger groups. And so I've had to learn I'm still building my stage presence because that's a whole nother learning lesson. So the relationship piece for me is starting to really be more important. Initially, it was the product, the packaging, the finance. And on finance, so because I didn't have funding, and I never wanted funding. We will eventually probably be acquired, but I skipped over that whole venture capital thing. You still need capital. You need growth capital. So what I did, and anyone could do this if you have particularly, not anyone, but if you have a product that you sell online, PayPal offers loans. It's basically working capital. And they used to be very, very reasonable interest rates. They're now about 10%, which is not as reasonable as they used to be. They used to be like 4 or 5%. Yeah. So I think I took my first PayPal loan maybe 7 years ago. I think it was for $10,000, but I paid it back. And then I took the next one for $20,000 and paid it back.
And for a specific purpose in the business?
Well, it was for mostly inventory or packaging, because you have to buy bags and you have to print them and you have to store them in fulfillment. So it was mostly for inventory, and they ask you what it is for. But the point is, I started small and paid it back. Made a bigger one, paid it back. Every single time we paid it back, I inched it up a little bit more, 50,000, 100,000. The max you can get from PayPal is $250, and we maxed out on $250 multiple times. And then I started working with a company called Clearco. They're an online bank. Yeah. And I have been working, and I'm going to give a shout out to Clearco because I've been working with them probably 5 years as well. And I use them more than I do PayPal. In fact, we don't even have a PayPal loan. And now Shopify also offers the same sort of thing. So with Clearco, same thing. I started with a $20,000 advance, paid it back. Got to $50,000, paid it back. $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. We now get $1 million advances from Clearco. Wow. $1 million at 4.5%.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Is it
working capital?
Is it against like future sales or something?
Yes. So they're tied into this is where having a website is really important. They can see, and they're tied to our bank. So they see everything. They see all the transactions. So they take a percentage every week of the transactions that they set up a maximum. And now we're working with Shopify. We switched over our website from Magento to Shopify last year, which was very important because Shopify is really the gorilla for consumer goods, and I would recommend them highly. And we've been selling so well on Shopify, they approached us and said, would you like working capital? And because we have such a track record now, we're doing so well, we went straight to $1 million the first time we got working capital. Yeah. So, but you have to earn your way. Yep. You have to start small.
But the first one was 10,000 7 years ago.
Yeah. Then 20,000, 25. And it gives you the freedom to own your stock. At any time, you can choose to bring in investors, and perhaps it would have been smarter to maybe bring in more angel investors. But I wanted to be sure I got a 10x for my investors, which is rare to do, but I wanted to. Yeah, so I didn't want to bring on anybody else until I knew that if I could be sure, absolutely 100% sure I could do that. We don't even need any now. We'll probably go straight to an acquisition in 3 years.
That's my next question is where are you taking this, Catherine? Yeah. What's the next steps for you?
My goal was to build $1 billion brand, to change the world with algae. And we are going to change. It's been around for 4 billion years. Algae is not a trend, and it's not new. I tell people it's just new to you. But it's never been communicated properly, branded properly. The quality's been poor, and we've changed all that. So algae needs to be on every single person's kitchen. countertop.
Yeah.
Full stop. Our food supply is so damaged. We're surrounded by toxins. Spirulina gives you the nutrition. Chlorella pulls out the toxins. So I wanted to be $1 billion brand. And to do that, you need layers and layers of executives and organization and global management. And that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to educate people, change their life, change their trajectory, help them understand what this is. That was the promise I made to the universe. So I'll be happy to sell to the right company who will build it further, take it further, further vision, and I'll keep doing the education, product development, creative management, because I like the branding.
Yeah.
And I used to look at other companies when they were acquired, and you see that the entrepreneur's been given this sort of, different weird title of chief executive, creative something, and you think, that poor entrepreneur, they got pushed out. No, that's probably what they wanted.
Yeah.
Because when you've been slugging it out for 15 years to build infrastructure, because that's the next thing as you get to the stage where I'm at, you need infrastructure, because once you start getting a trajectory of sales growth, you have to track this. You have to make sure you're monetizing correctly. You have to look at your financials. You have to make decisions about where you're going to spend your money, who you're going to hire. And so we have spent the last year putting in an ERP system, a CRM system. We put in NetSuite. Everything we're doing is to build infrastructure. Because as also anyone who's going to acquire the company, you have to be squeaky clean. All your financials, all your legal, everything has to be buttoned up. But, that's taken me a while, and certainly not anything an early stage entrepreneur has to think about. But it's a journey, and you can exit anytime you want if you decide it's or pivot it to something else. In fact, when I first started, I thought I was going to be selling chocolate, and I have a very funny story I'll tell you. And this is the other thing: your name will probably change, and probably what you sell will probably change. So here's the funny story. I haven't actually told this to too many people, if anyone. So I remember I said I started by giving these lectures on plant-based nutrition. So during the lectures, I kept telling people what not to eat, like not to eat dairy, not to eat sugar, not to eat. So they started calling me the not eat nutritionist. And when you say that quickly, it sounds like the naughty nutritionist.
That's
so
true.
My first business name was the naughty nutritionist. And we sold these tablets and we called them ENERGYbits. The trouble was, people thought I was some sort of porn star. And I realized, and there was another woman, hilariously, who lived in Arizona, and I think she was like 75 years old at the time. She called herself the naughty nutritionist. I owned the trademark, and she certainly didn't look very naughty to me, but I said, you know what? You can have the name. I'm moving on to something else that's going to be better for the market, to build a big national brand. I think she's still around, but so I was a naughty nutritionist, and if you Google naughty nutritionist, you'll still find remnants of it. But once again, I had no ego about pivoting. I realized that was not a name that would carry me the distance.
Right.
So I found something else.
Kath, this has been a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. Even just the little bits about the actual product too were extremely helpful, really cool to learn. Where can people go to get more from you, get more from your product, all that type of stuff?
Well, our website is ENERGYbits.com, ENERGYBITS, and we have a 20% discount code for any of your listeners. Travis C, all one word, and you'll get, we sell spirulina for energy, mental, physical, great for workouts. We entrepreneurs, we have long days, long hours. This will keep you going, those long hours, no food prep. They last 3 years. And then the chlorella, which we call ENERGYbits, will keep you healthy. There are no days off. There are no sick days when you're an entrepreneur. So we want to keep you healthy, and it will help you sleep.
What's your recommended, do you just take one of each?
No, probably a starter amount would be 10 spirulina in the morning or afternoon and 10 chlorella in the evening. But for lunch or for better results, I know it sounds crazy, but 30 would be what we'd recommend. We have NHL players who take 75 spirulina before a game and 75 chlorella after the game, because the spirulina gives them energy and focus on the ice, and the chlorella pulls out lactic acid so they don't have sore muscles afterwards. By the way, the chlorella also pulls out alcohol. So, every once in a while, some of us want to indulge.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what it is. Take 30 of these before bed. You will be stone sober in an hour and a half, and you will never have a hangover. I'm here in Vegas. That's a big deal.
Hangover cure.
Yeah, and it does it naturally. It does other things. So come to see us at ENERGYbits.com. Our handle on Instagram is ENERGYbits. I also have my own handle, Catharine Arnston, on Instagram, and I also launched my own website, CatharineArnston.com, for people who want to learn about me and having me speak. But algae will change your life, honestly. I tell people it's not new; it's just new to you. But I'm very supportive of entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurs. My friends are either entrepreneurs or artists because we create things out of nothing. Out of nothing. So be proud of being an entrepreneur. It's a very difficult job, but it will be so rewarding. However far you go with it, it's always going to be rewarding. And pat yourself on the back for taking a chance.
Catharine, really appreciate you coming on the show. Everybody else listening, remember, money only solves your money problems, but it's a little easier to solve the rest of your problems with money in the bank. So let's solve that problem first. Here on the Travis Makes Money podcast, thanks for tuning in. Go to ENERGYbits.com. Use code TravisC for 20% off your first order over there. Catharine, thank you.
Thank you.